We don't need coffee. We're already energetic. Cindy.
I got some shots before I came to class.
Cindy, where was I? I mean, I thought we were.
I know, right? Let's meet after class.
Okay, you got it.
What happened?
Nothing. What happened?
So a lot of people were asking, what is We Partners Network? We'll do it explain at 3:30 after the class is over. If you guys want to stick around, depending how many people, we'll go upstairs and I have a whiteboard trying to explain the model of what we're doing. Welcome to stay back, but if not, we understand it's been a full day. So part 2.
Part 2. Are you full yet? Don't sleep on me.
We need coffee.
And if you stay back, we'll take shots. Okay, no, just kidding.
I like to have a tequila.
Tequila shots.
Despite the coffee.
Okay, everyone, please take a seat, and then we continue with part 2. I'm sure you have a lot of questions at the end. Everybody here? Let's go ahead and start. Okay, so you got the loan approval or pre-approval. You got the contract going, right? You submit it to me, title company. Then what's next? Okay. So then what happened is once we get the contract, we start process on our ends. We work with the banker and obtain information. Again, because this is commercial, majority of the time, whether the seller or the buyers will be closing under an entity. Make sure you provided all the entity docs to the title company and the bank to review and approve prior. What happened is, and it's always like the certificate of formation, operating agreement, and the tax ID. Why? Because we need to make sure who is going to sign and who has authority to sign on behalf of that entity. Okay, so that's very important. Don't wait till the end, because a lot of times if it's a corporation or if it's a multi-member LLC, then one person decide not to come to closing, or, oh, I'll just have Cindy sign on our behalf. But then when we reviewed the documents, it's stating that all members have to attend. So what happened is we have to prepare the corporate resolution to state that, and it's going to be signed by all members, giving that 1 or 2 people, whoever that's going to sign at closing, the authority to sign on the behalf of the entity. So again, that takes time. So if you represent the clients and it's an entity, make sure that, first of all, are all members going to attend the closing? And if not, who will be attend the closing? Okay, that's on the sellers and buyers, but especially you represent the buyer. Most of the times the banker will require all members on the buyer side to sign at closing, because there's also a personal guarantees. Okay. Okay. So what is the difference between a title commitment and a title policy? Okay. Now, title company issue title insurance, but that's after the fact. So the title commitment is a pre-title. What we do is, after we got the contract in, then we do the title search, right? We search, what are we looking for? The seller's names. Make sure that it's the same name as the current owners, because it could be different, right? The property address. But again, we don't insure the address. We only insure what? The legal description. Whether it's a meets and bounds or it's a lot and block, it's a legal description. And then remember, on the contract, there's a UCC section, right? We also search the business names, and then we do the UCC searches. Back in the pandemic, a lot of business owners got assistance from the government. So they do the EIDL or HDL loan programs or grants, right? Grants. So what happened is when we do the UCC search, it will show that up. And then again, because we only insure the real estate transactions, we don't really care about the UCC liens. However, during the pandemic, we were able to work with all lenders out there by doing a favor. And what that means is because the bank will have to require the UCC liens to be terminated, right? Because when the banks give you a loan, it's for both business and the property, but title only property. You see? So I spoke with my guy, and no, go ahead. I spoke with my guy, and I said, you know what? Let me work with my attorneys to come up with a solution. Because if we cannot help them on the UCC or the EIDL payment or payoff, then the bank will not approve the loan, right? All right.
Is a party coming?
I'll take a nap. Don't take a nap on me, okay?
Ring the bell.
Aaron, do you want to ask?
If anyone lose an earring, it's right here for $5. $5 foot long. Just kidding. Nope.
Okay.
It's now or never. Okay. Everyone, please take a seat. So then we came up with a solution. You know, a lot of Asian people like us are very creative, right? I'm just kidding. So then what happened is whenever we do the UCC search and we find that there are government liens or like UCC liens, right? We will contact the seller and give them two options, but usually kind of like, okay, well, this is the best way that we can do. Either the seller have to pay that off and then get us a letter that say it's zero due, or a letter from the government saying that they will waive this loan. Or a second one, which is what I usually recommend the sellers do, is we will go ahead and collect. They need to get us the amount that is due. So keep in mind, these are business loans or actually grants from the government. We don't have access to it. You know, as a title company, we order payoffs all day long, right? But we cannot order UCC payoffs. So the consumer, which is a seller, have to order it and send it over to us. And because these are SBA loans, they don't have a physical address for you to overnight the check. They only have the PO box. Okay. So the best solution is I would tell the seller, I say, Miss Daisy, get me the amount that you owe, right? And again, with these kind of loans, they don't give you extra per diem interest. So whatever you order, it has to be on that day. It's only good for that day. Versus the real property payoffs, if you tell them right now it's the 8th, I need the payoff go through the 15th, and they'll send you the payoff go through the 15th. Okay, but the SBA loans or UCC grants or whatsoever only give you the interest to today. So I would say, Miss Daisy, go ahead and send me the payoff. Okay, she can take a screenshot of the printer, the copy or whatever, send it over to us. We'll collect it on the closing statement, but depends on when we're closing. And because if you want me to send the check out, it's a PO box. Usually I would say, Miss Daisy, we need to add another 30 or 45 days of interest just in case. Right? Bless you. Or I'll go ahead and collect that amount on the closing statement, but I'll hold it. So when the file is closed and funded, we wire your proceeds, right? You can go ahead and pay online because you can, and it's just like in 2 minutes. Send us the new balance showing zero. We reimburse that funds for you. Short, simple, and easy, right? A lot of title companies out there will not do this because it's liabilities and it's time consuming, right? But I like to do this because it helps you, because a lot of times you're selling the property, then you don't have the funds yet. And if for you to have to pay up front, and it's harder, right? Just a little couple extra steps, and then you're happy, I'm happy. Okay, So back to the title commitments. The commitment says that a title company is willing to insure title insurance under certain conditions, and if the seller fixes certain problems, the policy provides coverage for the property. Okay. What is title insurance? Title insurance insures against financial loss caused by defects in title to real estate. Again, real estate only. Title insurance companies defend against lawsuits attacking the title, or in the case of a covered loss, reimburse the insured up to the policy limit. Okay, because we're talking about commercial, right? Most of the commercial has business also. We will not be the judge to determine, okay, if the contract says $5 million, only $1 million is real estate and the other 4 is business. So here's like a way you can kind of cheat, not really. If you give me a contract that says 5 millions, we will insure 5 millions. But if you break it down to assets, business and real property, then we can only insure on the real property amount. Now, sometimes the sellers will require to break down because of tax purposes. Okay, and also if the sellers are going through 1031 exchange, not wanting to pay profit taxes, right, or capital gains, they want to break it down. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you break down, then we can only insure this much. Bless you. Are you allergic to me? No, I'm just kidding. I'm allergic to work. Every time I go to the office, I sneeze. Okay, so there are 2 types of title insurance, or we call it policies. One is the owner's title policy, and one is a loan policy. Just like the words, the owner's policy protecting the owner. How does that protect? So I'm closing today. Cindy Bo's the new owner, right? Next year, I want to sell the property. I want to sell the shopping centers. And then you have to go through the same title company research and all that again. Well, when I sold the property, I have a loan with Brett and Citizens Bank, right? But the title company did not find it. So when I resell it, it shows up on my title again, right? What happened is from the time that I am the owner of the property, it will insure and protect me from that time frame into the future, however long I'm going to hold title. When I resell, if there's liens or defects or missing items from the previous sellers, this policy will insure it. And if I don't have that, I'm stuck to that liens. Okay. For instance, I used to work with a lot of wholesalers, right? Every month, first Tuesday, people go to the auction, right? Buying homes on the list. You go to hub.com or auction.com, and there's a whole long list. And then you're like, okay, well, I want this property, this property, this property. Then you buy a bunch of cashier check, $5,000 or $10,000. You go to the auction location. Okay. By the time you get there, they were like, oh, well, this property is no longer valid. It's gone. It's not accurate. So what happened is you are buying these through sheriff's deeds. Like they will foreclose, like not paying property tax, for example, right? And you buying this and they only give you a bill of sale. There's no contract. There's no title search. Okay. So you buy it, you flip it, you resell. When you list it and you try to resell, Cindy's pull up title work and there's $4 million liens from the previous owners. This is real story. Okay. If you buy if you buy investment properties through HUD or foreclosures, it's different because they go through the title company for the closing. So we do all the due diligence already. We do the searches and we insure the policy. So for example, because he bought through the auction, he doesn't have title insurance. So he's stuck with that $4 million until I believe 5 years later, he cannot resell it. He has to just rent it out. But at that time, during the pandemic, the price was like 50,000, 100,000 over asking price, right? So he got stuck for 5 years until the government went through the whole foreclosure process, okay? And then sometimes, even if they go through the foreclosure process, not the right way, there's still liens that are not wiped out from the foreclosure, okay? So we call that substitutes deeds. Once they go through that, the trustees and everything, it wipes out completely. That's a different story, okay? So that's why the title policy is very, very important. The cost to it is not even less than, it's about 0.6% of the sales price, okay? So if anything happened, again, the clients can file the claim up to that amount that we insured. But it lasts you like lifetime until you change ownership. So it's very worth it. Now, I know a lot of times business only or, cash transactions, a lot of time people don't want to spend extra money to go through title companies for closing because they just want to pay like $200 for an attorney to do like a warranty deed. That's it. But you as an agent need to give them information that this is why it's very important for them to get an owner's title policy. And it's a one time, right? Drink one less shot a week and you'll be fine. Okay, so then the loan policy, what is the loan policy? It's protecting the lender. Will there be a loan policy if it's cash? No, because there's no lender, okay? So every time there is a lender, they want a loan policy. Why? Because it's ensuring them as first lien position when it comes to foreclosure. Okay, residential, the same thing. HOA can foreclose. I've seen it. Okay, HOA cannot foreclose before the lender because the lender is again what? First lien position. They have the loan policy. And if HOA foreclose, they have to pay the lender off. Owner's finance, right? Or third-party finance, hard money, private lenders always need a loan policy. During a purchase transaction, the loan policy only costs $100. Okay, plus all the endorsements, whatever the lender requires, survey endorsements or environmental, all that stuff. But it's only $100 extra to the owner's title policy. So again, examples of some title defect, invalid documents due to forgery, fraud, undue influence, duress, incompetency, incapacity, or impersonation. Failure of any person or entity to have authorized a transfer or conveyance. Remember operating agreements. We have to verify. A document affecting title that is not properly executed, signed, witnessed, notarized, or delivered. Undisclosed or unrecorded easements not otherwise apparent on your land. Okay. No right of access to and from the land. Another terminology is ingress and egress. This is when it comes to land purchase. If you don't have access, it will cost the buyer thousands and thousands of dollars to get access. And sometimes the city don't even allow that. So you representing the buyer and it comes to this issue, you're screwed. Your reputation is going to be screwed. Okay. A document executed under a falsified, expired, or otherwise invalid power of attorney. I'm going to share your life story. Several years ago, not me, another title company, an escrow officer, did a closing transaction in Plano. Okay. Everything went well, and then like a couple months later, it went on the news. I'm not sure if you remember. But basically, the buyer is an investor, and they flip homes. So they bought this property, and when the whole crew come in and dig up the yard to, landscaping and fixing the house, they find a corpse corpse, whatever, dead body. See, I need a shot. Yes, so they found a dead body buried in the backyard. So it turns out that the seller, okay, killed the owner, took his ID and all information and pretend to be a seller. But why did it happen? Because what happened is, let's say at the closing date, right? You came in and I say, well, Mr. Randy, may I see your ID? Because I need to notarize your docs, right? So you would say, oh, Cindy, I forgot my ID at home. Can I send it to you later? The escrow officer went ahead and closed that transaction. Then you fax it over, but it's through the fax. Looks familiar. So the whole transaction went through, and then months later, they found out that that was a fraudulent transaction. Okay, so things like that, right? Another sample is, if you went to one of my classes recently, I did a closing transaction, and the seller sold the property to the buyers, who is an investor. It was an investment property, so it has tenants, right? It has tenants. So then months after the closing, I received an email from an attorney. And he said, Miss Vo, I represent Miss Rodriguez, for example, right? And, we are in this lawsuits and etc. So what happened is the seller sold the property to the tenant, okay? And then he sell it to the buyer. Fraudulent. How in the world would we know? We won't know, right? That's when the owner's title policy came in handy. But I've looked at all the documents, and basically the seller, I think he was like using drug or something. His wife passed, and it was a mess. And so what happened was the buyer, which is the tenant, showed us a short letter with like 3 lines, handwritten, sale contract, nothing notarized, not a contract at all. Say, I'm selling this property to you for 20 grand. Okay. And then she showed us, like the old school way of the receipt of something like that. Like, you buy the whole booklet and you just tear it off. And I was like, sir, you say you represent the client, which is a tenant, but you know that this is not a contract. Like, you cannot come back and sue us because it's not a contract. So then the new owners have to hire an attorney, and I don't know what's going on. I think they file a claim with our underwriter and something's going on. But again, things like this could happen, right? Or sometimes, Cindy got sleepy that day and Cindy's doing the title search and she forgot one lien out there, right? And then later on, this lien pops up. Uh-oh, got it covered. Okay. Now, I've seen this more often in the commercial world, where sometimes when we do title search, and I'll show you all the example of the title commitments, there are liens on there. But the buyer is willing to close with that liens unpaid. So what happens is we have to take exception. If we're willing to, then we move that to another schedule so it doesn't show up. Okay. But another example is a document not properly filed, recorded, or indexed in the public records. So title could be transferred and it's not even recorded. If it's not recorded in the real estate records, it is not legal. Okay. For example, divorce decree. The couple go to the court, get divorced, got it signed off by the judge, done. Is that it? No. When we pull up title search, it will not show who got granted the property. Okay. So when we review the divorce decree, it will say, okay, well, Daisy got the property, or Daisy have to pay, Mr. ABC $50,000 to get the sole ownership. We have to follow whatever the judge say on the final divorce decree. Okay. And then after that, either the ex-husband or wife need to sign a warranty deed, remove that person's interest, and then we record that with the real property records. Or they have to have the original divorce decree for us to record it in the real property records. Sometimes because you have an attorney represent you during the divorce, you don't have the original, right? So then we have to order what is called a clerk certified copy from the court, stamp and say certified, and then we record in the real property records for it to be legalized. Okay. I know that's a lot of information. We'll have about another class on this. Too many classes. Okay, so same thing. Ownership claims by undisclosed or missing heirs. One time I worked on this deal and it took me like 7 years to close on $100,000 property. Can you believe it? This is why I have all this gray hair. I was just exaggerating. It only took me 3 years. But it's because the person who owns the property passed, and of course, either they have a will or we need to get them sign what is called the affidavit of heirship, right? The problem is, can you believe it or not, this property probably jinx, but all 7 generations are dead. Everybody's dead. So after for a long time, we have to take it to the, Austin, and they have to deal with it, and they find somebody else that I don't even think they're even anyway related that inherit the property. The scary thing is everybody died in the mid-30s.
Really?
I know, right? Ooh. It's not even Halloween yet. But also another sample is, let's say that the deceased person has multiple marriages. Mm-hmm. And our beautiful state of Texas has this common law and the primary and the community law state and all that stuff. So back in, I believe, 1996, the law changes. Before that year, it says that when one spouse passed, the property belongs to the surviving spouse. After that year, the law changed. When someone deceased and they have children from the previous marriage, their 50% will be divided equally among all the children. And then the other spouse only owns 50%, as usual. So again, when that person does not have a will, we do what is called the affidavit of heirship, right? And so they're going to have to fill out the questionnaire with all the information and then send it back to us with a death certificate. And, the surviving wife could be like, I don't like his children. I'm just going to disclose my children only. Okay. And then, of course, we just take the words for it. And then we prepare the affidavit of heirship. It's signed by the affiant plus the 2 interested parties. Go to the closing. Well, a couple months later, the not really like, daughter or something from the other marriage came back and say, I am also one of the heirs. That's also covered under the owner's title policy. Okay. Defect arising from an improper prior foreclosure. Undisclosed restrictive covenants affecting the property. For example, investors buying lake house for Airbnb, right? We have to disclose all the HOA information, and it has to be on the title commitment that there is HOA, right? If for some reason we miss providing the HOA docs to the buyers, and it says clearly no Airbnb allowed, you're screwed, or I'm screwed, right? So those are some of the examples that why titles insurance is very important. So now you know, right? Bless you. Another person allergic to me. Okay, so some examples of the lien issues. Any statutory or constitutional contractors, mechanics, or materialman's lien for labor or materials that began on or before the policy date. Talk to an attorney about your rights. Lien for labor or materials furnished by a contractor without your consent. A previous owner failed to pay a mortgage or deed of trust, judgment, tax, or special assessment, a charge by homeowners or condominium association. Other liens or claims that may exist against your title that are not listed in the property. Okay, so here's a note about this. Notify the title company immediately if someone files a lien or claims an interest in your property. Failure to do so could jeopardize your claim. Contact the underwriter listed on the policy and follow their claim filing procedures. So as a real estate agent, you need what? You need to get as much facts as possible from your own clients, especially if you represent the sellers, right? Sellers, they could give you false information. I'm sharing you a funny story. So I work on this file and the sellers say, oh, well, I'm single. Okay, bachelor. see, great minds think alike. She says she's single. Okay, so we process everything. We prepare the warranty deed, say she is an unmarried woman. And then
MBA, marriage but available.
available only at the moment, right? So at the closing table, I was listening to, I was doing closings and I was listening to her conversation with her listing agents, saying something about spouse and husband. And I'm like, hold on, excuse me, are you married? And she's like, no. I was like, please clarify that. And then, bless you. And then she was like, this is so funny. She was like, we're not married, but we share the same house and we share the same room. And I'm like, and you're sharing the same bed, I'm assuming. And then she's like, so like she was pausing. And I was like, I have to stop the close. And I said, ma'am, whether you like it or not, you are married in Texas. And then she came up with, oh, well, he's fishing in the middle of the ocean where I can't find him. Well, you're gonna have to find him somehow, because we're not closing. But if for some reason, like, okay, you have to understand, as an escrow officer, working in a title company, if I don't know about it, I don't know about it. But if I know about it, I'm gonna have to apply the laws, right? So there you go, one of the samples. I got lots of experience, fun stories. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so here's the ABCs of the title commitment. Whenever you receive the title commitment, and I'm going to show you the sample so you know how to read, because a lot of time when you receive the title work and you just forward it to your clients, and then they'll come back and say, what's this? And I was like, I don't know, let me find out. So this is a time where you're going to find out. The ABCs of title commitment. Schedule A are actual facts. It's going to disclose who the real owners are, the actual legal description, who the new owner is going to be for the owner's title insurance, the loan amount or the sales price for the insurable amount. Actual facts. We do not disclose address because we don't insure address. So with that being said, if the street say road, and then you put in the contract, say street, we don't care. Now, sometimes the bank will come back and say, well, we need you to tell us what you have, right? So what are we using? We go back to the plat. So when it's just a raw land, developers go in, develop the land, and they work with the city and come up with the plat. That's when they will come up with the street's name, the lot and block, etc. That's the plat. Whatever the plat say that was recorded, even if it's wrong, that's what we go with. Now, it's up to you and your clients and the bank to decide whether it's road or street. Okay, but that's all we can provide, right? Okay, so Schedule B is buyer notification. It's going to be restrictions, building lines, covenants, easements, taxes, insurable, all that good stuff. And a lot of time, whatever on the survey will reflect on here. If you look at the survey and the survey doesn't match with the title work, again, we go by the plat. Okay. The surveyor can be wrong. And then we can go back to the survey and say, well, you got to fix this. You're missing a building line. C, clean in order to close. This is where all the liens is going to show up. Okay. And again, because it's commercial, we will also have additional requirements that we need to review the entity docs. Again, like for gas station, they usually put the business name on the contract for the sellers. And then when we pull it up on CAT, we're like, well, this doesn't match. So then we have to confirm with the seller. And they were like, okay, well, yeah, that name is on the property and the other name is on the business. Okay, then we need to update and get the amendment done. Okay. So, but everything has to be disclosed on the Schedule C, review everything. If there's a divorce, if there's a foreclosure, if there's any abstract of judgments, all that stuff be disclosed on Schedule C. And our job is to make sure everything on Schedule C cleared before we close. Because once we close, we ensure the policy, we're stuck. Okay? Anything that is on Schedule C that cannot be clear and the buyer is okay with it, that's when we move to the Schedule B. But our Schedule C has to be clear and empty. And this, I will show you when you look at the title policy itself, it only has Schedule A and B. Okay? And then Schedule D are disclosures. Who's the title companies, who's the underwriters, who own parts of certain things, what are the splits on the premiums, all that numbers and information. Okay? So here's a copy of the actual commitment. As you can see under letter A is the amount for the policy amount of the owner's title policy, which is what again? Sales price. Okay. And then the proposed insurer, the new buyer's names. And then section C is for the loan title insurance. The policy amount is what? Loan amount. Remember, if you break them out to business and real estate only, then we will only insure for the real estate value. Okay, so lump it together. But I do understand sometimes, you know, you have to split it out, otherwise the seller will not sign the contract. Okay, and then again, under 3, which is the actual vested names, owner's names. This is Schedule B. It has the restrictions on there. So as you can see on this one, they only have one restrictive covenants under volume 4, page 256. Whenever we send title work out to you and your clients, we have to include all the documents on this page or this section. Okay, whether you read it or your clients read it or not, at least you cannot come back and say, well, Cindy didn't tell me so. Well, I sent it to you. Okay. And then, of course, under number 5, as you can see, is a tax year 2023. This is what we're insuring, tax year 2023. Commercial taxes. Again, depends on the business side. Sometimes the business tax will not be reported with the tax office. If they don't report it with the tax office, then when we pull up the tax certificate, it only shows up the property tax. Okay, but if they report it to the, the county appraisal district, then it will also show the business or the personal taxes. Okay, again, when we go to closing, we only prorate and collect taxes for the real property. However, we are willing to do the proration of the business tax if the seller and the buyer agree to a certain amount. Okay, then we'll go ahead and do that proration or collection. But otherwise, it is not our duty to take care on the business side. And then whenever the contract broke down to like, okay, there's breakdown. I'm loving this class. This is fun. We should do more often. Break down to like the real property and the business. On the business part, we can only do debit credits on page 1 of the closing statement. So let's say that the property is $1 million and then the business is 4 million, right? We will collect $4 million and then credit to the buyer for 4 million. Credit to the seller for $4 million. So it's a debit credit, almost like a seller's concession, right? That's all we do. But don't come back and tell me, well, you know, we didn't do this, this is this. And then we also do another favor. By our attorney, we'll also prepare the bill of sale for the business. Okay. So we do a lot of favors because we love y'all. Okay, so now Schedule C. As you can see, starting number 5 down, there's whatever liens on there. Okay. If it comes to gas station, you will see additional liens that will say like a jobber. It's a jobber from SCI Fuel Company or anything like that. So they're going to put a lien on there and also the assignments because they're supplying the gas, right? So they will put another lien on there and they'll file another UCC to make sure that you're paying them. So this one right there, number 5, as you can see, SCI Fuel Services, right? And then number 6 is the actual lien, the mortgage lien, 1.8. So we have to make sure all of this are clear. And then Schedule D, you know, our companies who are the owners, shareholders, percentage, and then, you know, that's it to the title commitments. So here is a sample of the title insurance. We're going to send out with a cover letter. The cover sheet to the title insurance are actually including instructions on how to file claims. Okay, so you can call the title company to ask them how to file claims, or actually you can just look at this and there's instructions of where to send the request to, and then they'll come back and they'll do the research and they'll ask for more information. Okay, in case you couldn't get a hold of anybody. So as you can see right here, Schedule A, on the title commitment, it shows the current owner, right? This is a title policy, and we have to issue the title policies between 30 to 60 days after the closing. So this is a title policy. As you can see right now, it has a purchase price matching with the commitment. The name now is going to be whose name? The buyer's names. So this is their insurance right here. And of course, with a legal description. Okay. Again, Schedule B should be everything reflecting the Schedule B of the commitment, unless it's objected. And then we have to advise and fix it or remove it. But then again, if you look on Schedule B here, these are the new liens, right? New liens. So the loans, the bank loans, is going to be putting on Schedule B. So as you can see right here, the buyer got the loan with the bank and also a seller's finance of $350,000. But there's also other easements too. You see there's Farmers Electric, Cooperative, Inc., Water Supply, etc. Continue on Schedule B, you know, motor fuel supply. Again, they have other suppliers. And then that's it, right? If it has like the egress, ingress, access, all that, it will also disclose on Schedule B. And then that's it to the title policy. Okay. Loan policy, again, is for lenders only. You probably don't look at this unless you do loans, but it's just a sample. Same thing, nothing different, except the one is going to say loan policy instead of owner's policy. And then, of course, the endorsements. Majority of the commercial will have access endorsements because the lender wants to make sure that they have access to the property. So this is additional. Okay. Okay. Are we good? Are we still awake?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I want to make sure y'all still excited. Okay, so that was the title insurance, right? Now we're going to talk about property insurance and business insurance. And of course, you know, some of you met THIEN before during the introduction. He's going to share with us there are a lot of changes in the insurance industry, especially with the commercial side. And as an agent, there are things that you need to know, because not just the insurance covering the property, but also the business, the interior, all the other assets, right? So please help me give a welcome to Mr. Tim Tai again.
Thank you very much. I forgot that she put me on after lunch. So I'm not going to bore you with some of these stuff because
You need a nap.
the handheld is fine.
Just
Yeah.
speak into it.
So there has been a lot of changes in the insurance industry. If you notice, with everything going on with we're in Texas, we're catastrophe prone. And there are things that are changes. I've talked to our commercial underwriters, and there's things that in the industry, she's telling me that as a realtor and as a business owner, these are the things that you have to consider when you're buying a property, because certain companies right now are not writing building coverages if it's in an area that are catastrophe prone. So we have to put the address in to a software, and it tells it if it's an area that are prone for cat, they may not write it, or they limit the coverage, or they give you ACV versus replacement costs, or just completely excludes roof coverage. So these are the things that something you have to let your client know as an investor as well, because if you don't have the insurance, you cannot close on the property regardless, unless you pay cash for it. And most of these commercial properties are really expensive. So, and you know, the saying is that you don't want to use your own money, you want to use somebody else's money in order to make money. So here are some of the things that you need to be aware of. Some of the company right now, they are excluding roof coverage in certain areas. So you really need to find out whether or not if this property can get the insurance, and if they can get the insurance, are they going to exclude the roof? And I don't know if you're aware the difference between ACV and replacement costs. ACV just stands for actual cash value, meaning that if your roof is 40-year-old roof and it's been on there for 30 years, they're going to depreciate it by 30 years. And whatever's left, that's what they're going to give you, subject to their deductible as well. So be really careful the difference between replacement costs and ACV costs, okay? Another thing is that they limit the amount that they pay on roof coverage as well. So have your customer pay attention to that, because they may cover it, but they're only going to cover up to a certain amount. In situations, I can tell you on a residential real estate, the roof that that catastrophe that just came through a few months ago, I had a customer, the roof, maybe about 3,300 square foot, it cost $36,000 to replace the roof. 5-6 years ago, that same roof probably cost about 18 to 20. So it costs a lot of money now to replace because of the material costs as well as labor, okay? Now, there are companies that will sell you your customer insurance on a building. They're surplus company. The only problem with that is these surplus companies, they don't domicile in Texas, so therefore they don't follow Texas rule. So if the customer have problem with the company, they can't turn to the insurance commissioner for help because they don't have to follow their laws. And most of these companies are out of state. So you really can't walk into their office if you're having issues. So one of the things is you do need to have an agent that are an advocate for you to be able to do this. With State Farm, since I've been around for them for a long time, we're the only company that allows their agents to pay certain claims. And I have authority up to $10,000 to pay without going through the claims department. And a lot of times that's where your client's going to have problem with when they have a claim. Because some of these companies, they're so busy or they don't have enough manpower to handle the volume when there's a catastrophe. When a company declare a catastrophe, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in damages. Okay. And so if they don't have the capacity, then they're going to overwhelm their employees, or they hire independent contractors. And independent contractors, If you ever dealt with them, they only do what they're told. They make no decisions. They look at the property and they send it back to the company and the adjuster. They will review it once they have time and get back with you. And if there's any problem, again, they'll have to send another person out, another independent to look at it to reinspect. So I think these are the information that it's important for you to let your clients know, because as investors or people that are investing in this businesses, they don't have time. And time for them is money. And that's the reason why you guys need to understand that right now in my industry, there's a lot of things going on, okay? And there are contractors out there that really aren't doing what they're supposed to. We see a lot of contractor comes in, they call storm chaser. They come in, they put a bid. You guys, if they look for prices, they'll put the amount down, they'll pay half of it, or they want money to put up for materials. And guess what? They're gonna leave. And you're gonna be stuck with that, whatever money that you put up. Tell your clients, never put up money to any contractor until the work is done. Or locate contractors that are locally, that they have an office, so that you can go to if there's a problem. Because that is a big issue in our industry when there's a cap, okay? Make sure your clients understand some of these property, the older property, an agent may be able to give you a binding in order for them to close. But a lot of times when these come through to the underwriters, they have the right to go back and check information about that property to make sure that it is a risk they want to take upon. For example, older buildings, if their electrical panels are not up to date, they have the right to come back and say, no, we're not going to insure this property. They do have 30 or 60 days, once it's bound, to be able to come back and say the risk is high. Or they come back and give you a list of laundry things that you have to do. If you don't do it by this date, they're going to non-issue the policy, meaning that it will not be effective the date that you close on that loan. So it's really critical that as an agent, I think it's really important, because if you want repeated businesses from these investors, you want to make sure you take care of them. So that way in the future, they come back to you for another building, another property, because they know that you're going to take care of them, that you at least have enough information to give them so they can make a right decision for themselves, whatever that is. And I'll be glad to be that go-to person for you guys. If you're stuck with something, at least I can tell you if it's a norm for the industry to whatever they're asking for. But it is very normal for the underwriter to come back and say, you got 5 things to take care of it. If you don't, we're going to non-renew the policy or cancel it, because they do have the right to cancel within the first 60 days. Okay. But yeah, just recently in the last year or two, we do have software that the company mandate us to put the address in before we even quote it, if it qualifies. They don't even know what the building looks like, how much it is. If it's in that zone or in that zip code, they're going to automatically not going to take the insure that property, because the risk is too high. Okay. Some of these companies, as a business, every businesses have to make money. If they don't charge you enough on the premium, they gotta make it up on the back end. And how they make it up on the back end is not having trained underwriter, not having trained claim rep, hire independents. They could do whatever it does for them to be able to have profit, especially companies that have to report to stockholders. If the CEO and president don't make a profit, they're going to have to cut expenses or raise rates in order for them to make money. Because if they don't, the stockholders or the board of directors will vote them out and put another person in that will do it. And we see that with companies that are publicly traded. That's how it operates. Okay. State Farm, on the other hand, we're a mutual company. We're not owned by the stockholders, we're owned by our policyholders. So when the CEO, our CEO, make decision, it's based on what is best for our customer, which is the owner of the company. And that's one difference between a mutual company and a stockholder company. Another thing is there are certain HOA company and other even banks, I believe, they want to make sure that the insurance that you have has to be A-rated. If they're not A-rated, they won't accept that insurance. So I've had a few business owners who bought office condos have to go in and change the insurance because the company that they got the insurance from does not meet the WISE rating of being A or A+ companies. So that's something that you really have to also let your customer knows that whatever insurance you go with, make sure that is an A-rated company, because if not, guess what? They may not accept that insurance. Okay. That's pretty much what I have, since it's just a general overview of insurance. Some of the presentation I have in here, it's general information. I know that you guys can perfectly read some of those things, but here's another things that you have to understand on some of these businesses. If they're a landlord, okay, some business policies does not cover the owner for wrongful eviction. So if they evict somebody and they didn't have the proper means to do it or documentation, they can be held responsible personally. And some of these business policies does not cover that. And that's why I normally recommend individuals to get a personal liability umbrella policy to protect themselves in the event that they name personally versus the business or the corporation that the building is in. Okay. There are classes that are given out there, how to sue insurance company, how to sue real estate agents, how to sue companies. It's done all the time. It was done back when I was a claim rep 20 years ago. We aware of classes that they give to attorney, how to sue insurance company and what they need to do. So as a real estate agent, there are classes that are doing the same thing. So protect yourself, get the policy, make sure that it helps protect you as an individual in the event something went wrong. It's not about you doing something wrong. If they sue you, you have to file a response. You have to get an attorney. That's where the cost is. All they're doing is just fishing. They want to see who's got the biggest money and who they can get away from getting it. Okay, so again, I'm available. I'll leave some information here just for as far as informational. You guys are welcome to call me. I've been in the insurance industry for a long, long time. You know, I've been involved in a lot of lawsuits, death cases, dog bites. So I understand how these things works. All I want to be is the go-to for you guys for help if you need it. I'm available. My office is next to Cindy. And like I said, State Farm been around over 100 years. We're rated very, very high. And we're a mutual company. We're not a stockholders company. So our CEO and presidents make decisions based on our policyholders, what makes sense for them. Okay? Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Tim. I want to share something real quick when it comes to insurance that some of you probably don't know. When it comes to commercial closings, the banks will sometimes require the buyers or the borrowers to purchase life insurance, term life insurance. Because remember, when they do the loan, it's on both what? The entity and the personal guarantors, right? So they will always require, or not always, sometimes depends on the loan types, that the borrowers will need to purchase additional term life insurance. Okay, so you know where to find THIEN. If not, find me. He's next to me. Sorry, we're on. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so save the best for last. No pressure. Just FYI. Again, our wonderful speakers, Ms. Liz Harvey and Mr. Steve Cook. They are specialized in the project management company. And they will share with you their services, how they can be involved to make your life so much easier. Because like I shared with Liz in the past is, as a title company, somehow, some way, I became like a concierge, right? People come and ask me, oh, can you show me the best restaurant around here? I was like, ah, nothing to do with title. But long story short is, when we help clients with development and construction, you know, before I met her, and now like my life is so much easier because I'm also helping the clients, investors to work with the civil engineering, with the city to rezone, finding the contractor, and I'm like, I got paid for this, right? So I was very blessed to meet her at the Women in Leadership, Women Power, and she shared with me what she does, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're my lifesaver. So of course, they are so wonderful. They will be working with us on, you know, the inputting all the information, and I have to thank them so much because they're planning on site tours for the last workshop, which is the government agencies, the Pearl Museum of Asian Arts, and also the scientist buildings. Okay, so these are the special purpose. If you still remember my class earlier, right? That's follow under the number 8 categories, special purpose commercial property types. So without further ado, please give them a big welcome to Liz Harvey and Steve Cook.
Thanks, Cindy. Got it. Thank you, Cindy. Again, the point in this brief presentation is to give just a quick overview for you guys of who we are. So we wanted to share, as I was looking at this national program project management company, then I realized we're really international. Don't be jealous. We're in Canada, and we just finished a project in South America and Panama. It was soccer fields, but it's still Panama. So we wanted to just briefly highlight how we came to be. So I don't know if some of you are familiar with Turner Construction. Okay, so Jim Turner of Turner Construction decided in 1977, he's seeing a lot of things going on in the construction and architectural side of projects that probably shouldn't have been. And he saw an opportunity to represent an owner to take care of their needs. He saw things that needed to be done better and to be changed. And from that, he created project control. So from that, we evolved into a project management owner rep company. And as you can see, with 2,000 plus projects to date, 16 billion portfolio, like I said, 48 years in existence, that kind of gives you an oversight of the thinking and the culture that we came from.
Well, and to add to that, I came from the owner side. I've talked to you about some of the government work that I had done for the last 30 years. And so I've had this perspective of an owner for so very long. Liz is my boss, whether she knows it or not. And so I brought that same perspective on because I had to live with what Jim Turner had recognized. I had to do it too. I was the owner, and I had to put together teams of architects in order for us to get the projects out that we needed to get out and have it on budget, because I had a council breathing down my neck all the time, wanting us to know what in the world was going on, right? And so and that was, I came from that same perspective. And so we've come together to make this as good for an owner as we possibly can. She's seen it from her side. I've seen it from my side. It's been going on for 48 years. And these are just some of the things we've done. And we've also grown into some different sectors as a result of that.
So as we mentioned, 48 years, and that brings a lot of expertise. So the first 30 years with Jim Turner and different leadership at the helm, it was primarily commercial. And so as Cindy mentioned earlier, that covers 8 different types. So that was hospitality, that's corporate, that's commercial, just a mix of mixed use. Had to put that in there, but just a mix of different commercial work. And from that, in the last 15, 16 years, we have evolved into a more diversified market. So a lot of different opportunities. We have science and technology, we have religion, we have nonprofit, there's a municipal government, just a different array of markets that we are now providing our expertise in. And I think you're talking to some of the project types.
Yeah, so like Liz said, we've gone from all this corporate stuff that has a real close connection to what you guys are possibly going to be dealing with, from all the headquarters and just commercial buildings, and then we've grown into all these other sectors. So on the hospital side, or the medical side, we've got a project right now with Cook Children's. On the community side, we have a convention center project in Austin. On the hospitality side, we have the Pearl Brewery down in San Antonio. It's this whole rebuild of the brewery and hotels and
I bet lots of them are familiar with the Pearl.
We just got done doing a basilica in San Antonio. We have data centers that we've done for multiple different groups, and so we've grown into that. And for the sports fans in the room, we have a group that was spun off that was called PC Sports, Project Control Sports. So we've done the Milwaukee Bucks arena. We finished that. The Phoenix Suns arena, basketball arena. We've done that. Baylor just finished their brand new basketball arena. We did that. So if you went to that ribbon cutting, we were there too. So so we've done those. There's a bunch more. The Calgary Flames. We have a guy that just moved to Calgary so that he can do the Calgary Flames Stadium. And so we've gone from the point of all this is to say we've gone from doing small commercial stuff to massive arenas and everything in between. And so we've got Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center in San Antonio. We do that, and we do hike and bike trails if we have to.
It's a good mix. And some of the commercial that we did start out with, one of our longest standing clients was USAA. So we did anything from their corporate headquarters to the Fiesta, Texas with them. So it just was an array of work. And we have a tendency, once we get with a client, we're there for the relationship. We're not there for a project. Just similar to you guys when you're out there working with a family or soon to be commercial, right? It's an investment of long term. So we took the time with a lot of these clients. Frost Bank was another one. We're currently working with a developer and an architect outside of Austin on Lemon Creek Ranch, which is almost exactly like, but different in its own way, Clear Fork at Chisholm Trail.
Mm-hmm.
So just different relationships. And a lot of that has evolved from knowing different people. It could be somebody at church. It could be an owner that we have meetings with at a networking event. It could be developers that we're working with on a committee. It just depends, or board members, honestly. We finished some work with an owner that one of our senior vice presidents, he's on a board with them, and he knew that they needed help out here. And so he gave us a call because they had lost 2 people consecutively and had some time-sensitive, monetary time-sensitive projects that needed help getting completed. So we came out and helped with those projects.
And just to get more specific about what we do, you often hear on time and on budget and all those things, and people say that and they act like they're smart. But and some of these terminologies that we're going to use is it's simple, easy stuff, but it's when somebody who does it all day long every day with and knows the people in the market. We know a lot of the contractors and a lot of the subs and a lot of the owners now, and so they know us and we know what they want. We know how sensitive things are for them, particularly, right? And so procurement, different kinds of procurement. If somebody's in a real big hurry, we might do design build instead of just doing what a typical thing would be. So we understand all those procurement types too, right? And we can bring that to anybody's client that has a question about those kinds of things. So the program, when we say program, everybody has something that comes in their mind. What that means is we talk to you. If you get us there soon enough, we talk to that owner and make sure whatever we're going to do is going to be something that lasts for them for the next 20 or 30 years, and they're not having to remodel in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right?
So to back up for just a minute, I think a lot of times people have a either preconceived notion of what project management means, or they have no notion. And so just so everyone understands, quite often we are brought in from conception to closeout of a project. And like I mentioned, it could be, say that board member realized, oh, well, we want a new public safety building, but we don't know how to go about doing that because our staff is busy with 50 other jobs that are taking their time. So they bring us in and have that dialogue with, we want this to happen. Can you help us decide what a budget will look like, what a schedule needs to be? Help us write the RFQ for the architects, write the RFQ for the contractor, like what Cindy was mentioning earlier. See it through construction and design, even through closeout, commissioning, into and past warranty. So those are some key aspects of what we do.
And the second one on there is risk mitigation. That's the whole reason we exist, is for any, and we can all think of 10,000 things that can go wrong on a construction project. And I've seen 20,000 things go wrong on a construction project, right? And so that's what we're here for. And we're not here to say we're going to keep on any of those things from happening, but we can foresee some of them before they happen. We can also deal with them a little bit better than people who've never had to deal with it, right? And so we want to work with an owner while we're doing those kinds of things too. Obviously, schedule's a big deal. Everybody is worked up about schedules, but if it rains for 6 months, are we going to beat up the contractor because it rained for 6 months? Probably not. I would not recommend that, right? So we have the sense and the know-how to say, hang on, owner, that don't go too crazy because it rained for 6 months or something like that. Okay, so we're here to help them, and when we can, if it's legitimate, and helping them, sometimes helping you is helping them, and so we want to do that. We want to be honest on every level. Okay,
And
so that's what
collaborative.
absolutely, and collaborate. And just beating up the contractor, and sometimes they do need to be beat up. We get that, but not all the time. It's not always their deal, right? Sometimes you got a sorry design, or you have a design where you can't get that material,
Or there's environmental, or there's permitting,
or 10,000 other things, right? And so we're here to say, hey, Mr. Architect, that's really cool and beautiful, but we can't get it. So let's think of something else, right? What can you get, Mr. Contractor? And we can help bridge that gap, so you don't feel like I'm getting screwed. They're not giving me what I'm supposed to be getting, right? And we know if that's the case or not. So that's a big part of it. Obviously, the budget's a big deal. We understand budgets. If we have all these projects going on all the time, if somebody gives us a number for roofing and we think it's a little out of whack, I can call 10 different people in my company and say, what's your price you're getting for this? Or is this a bad price or not? It looks bad to me, is it? And if everybody else is getting high prices right now, okay, maybe it isn't. But if they aren't, I'll say, well, who's your supplier and who's your sub? Give me both of those people.
Well,
So I can tell my owner to find out about that too, right? So we can maybe save them some money.
Well, and I think if nothing else from today, from our conversation with you, hear that we are a resource. So exactly what Steve just said, we are living that with the design and construction right now. And we all know what that looks like. Just watch the news every morning. And so if nothing else, if you guys have questions, if you're getting good numbers from design or construction, or what a renovation would look like, right? Interiors, or however, you'll talk to an example, I think, in a few minutes. That's very timely. But that will show, we just pick up a phone and we're happy to run the numbers and compare for you guys.
And then just think of just a few things that we've gone through lately. COVID, you want to go through a big project, a 2-year project, and the COVID hits, and you're trying to figure all that out and trying to work with a contractor and a designer, and everybody's getting their attorneys, calling their attorneys, and everybody's getting mad. I'm not saying we can keep all that from happening, but I can tell you that we would step in there with you and we'd work with you through that. And we had a lot of success doing that. We opened the Phoenix Sun Arena right in the big fat middle of COVID. We opened on time. Okay. So and we're patting ourselves on the back. I get it, but I'm just telling you, we were there for somebody to help them do that. Right. The winter storm Uri, and all the things that happen with that. Do you want to work through that and having all the frozen things on your site, and it breaks some pipes that were already installed or something? How do you work through that? And what's that look like? And do you have a contract that can address all those things? We would have made sure you did. And sometimes if somebody doesn't know better, they wouldn't. And so they end up having to pay for that pipe again. Right. And so we're here to help make sure that doesn't happen. And just the supply chain that's going on right now, to get that glass right there, it takes 5 times longer than it used to take 3 years ago. Right. And we know that. And so, and dude, exactly. And
Today.
so we know right when we get the first design, we say, where's the glass? Find it, get it ordered right now, Mr. Contractor, because if you don't, we'll never open this place on time. Right. So those are some of the things that are,
Well, and I think
we're here for.
Yeah, everything Steve just said, Cindy said, we take the headache, we take the risk, and that's what we take on for the owner.
This is just more specific. It's kind of the same stuff we're talking about. The number one thing that we do is, you have a real job and your owner has a real job. The hospitals are full of the most brilliant people in the world, right? But they can't build a building as well as we can, and that's okay. And I don't want to do medical stuff either, right? So that's the whole point. Let the experts do what they do, and let us build your building. And it comes at a cost, but how much is that worth? That you're not having to do that. You're not having to take somebody that's, a lot of cities, when they're going to build a new fire station, they'll get the fire chief to be the PM for the project. You think he's very good at it? I can tell you he's not. He's great at doing what he does and saving lives and all that other stuff, but he might not know anything about flooring and HVAC systems, okay? And so that's what we're here for.
And I believe too, what you can see on this page, a lot of times an owner is right in the middle of it. And we have the ability as a third party to come in and represent all aspects and make sure that it is addressed from all aspects, because that's the only way to get a truly successful project done. And oftentimes, I know this will shock you guys, but there's oftentimes egos, and a lot of egos in any industry. But good Lord, I'm going to say on the construction, maybe architectural, there's a lot of it, and it's balancing those egos, because we also, we think we're great, right? So we walk in the door. I often say that project control is a unicorn, that yes, we have egos, but we leave it at the door because we're representing the owner. So we make sure when we walk in, it's neutral, and the best interest is what the owner wants done. And just like Steve said, with the contracts and the budgets, where's the best value? Can we save money somewhere? Because a lot of times, as you just shared with the ego on some designers, they get very creative, and that leads to a lot of
Cost.
So again, it's just a balancing of all that. And I think this slide just reiterates that for you guys.
I think one of the most important things about that last slide is to just understand, as we speak contractor and we speak architect, and a lot of times you don't.
That's a good way to
Just
say
like
it.
the medical field, I can't, God tells me what's wrong with me, I'm dumb it down. I don't know.
I
what
don't
you're
speak
talking
real
about.
estate.
Right. Unfortunately, I know a lot about real estate, but anyway.
As a side note, Steve's background, real estate in Arlington and Fort Worth, so combined.
Yeah, I did all the transactions for the real estate in Fort Worth over the last 8 years with a team. I didn't do it all. I had 7 guys that helped me. And then in Arlington, I did that for about 10 years too. So I come at this from a perspective from where you come from. We did a lot of commercial deals, but we also did a lot of teeny tiny little easement deals too. So I've gone from the little tiniest thing you can ever imagine to $80 million deals. So
And you'll talk more to that when we do some of the tours that Cindy
Yes,
mentioned.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't wait to talk about that and how the government works and how we do real estate, because I've had to do
How
it
does the government work, Steve?
perfectly. I think the thing I'll just point out on this, I don't want to read this thing to you, but that second line, client empowered to make informed decisions. I think that's the most important thing we probably do. An example that Liz was referring to is we have a friend that's a developer that we've done work for in the past. He called us recently and said, "Hey, I'm working on a golf course that I've bought, and we're going to redevelop it and make it into something new and exciting. But I've gotten my engineering report back on my soils and with some estimates, and it looks like it's just crazy expensive. There's just no way this is correct." And when he told us the numbers, and we're like, "Golly, that sounds crazy. You're right, probably, but let us look at that report."
They wanted validation.
Yeah, so we got a 140-page engineering report. Yay, we got to read through. When we got through reading it, we called that owner, that developer back and said, "It's worse than what those estimates are. It's actually going to be more expensive than what he's saying because of how bad that soil is." And so I'm not saying that so that we can say anything other than we know what we're looking at. We look at the PI of the soil or the potential vertical rise of the soil, and we can say, "Holy cow, that's terrible stuff. Don't build anything out there." And so we were able to help him, and he's going, "Okay, well, I'm getting out of this one," right? And so we can help your developer. You wouldn't get a sell then, but he'd probably trust you a whole lot more. So call us if we've got information and data like that. We can tell you something on. I'd love to talk to you about it. I'd like to go see the site. I'm just as curious as all you are. I want to see things too, and I want to get out of the office and away from the boss and Liz. And so, anyway, that's the last one for me, I think.
Yeah, and just to round it off, there's different networking events. When Cindy mentioned that the hours were different from residential to commercial, I was surprised by that. Now, nobody in this room was but me. It made me think, though, that there are some networking opportunities, professional organizations, like there's the Real Estate Council, Fort Worth Real Estate Council, and there's Urban Land Institute in Dallas. So those are just some of the organizations that we sometimes sponsor or attend events and meet some commercial folks on that side. So I did want to throw that out there with you guys venturing into this side of the industry.
We'd love to answer any questions if we have time, Cindy, if anybody has anything.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we're gonna be starting the Q&A.
Okay.
I got kind of scared when the question was like, how is the government?
Yeah.
Politics now. Just kidding.
Too soon. Too soon.
Okay, so I only see 4 questions here. But of course, I'm pretty sure you guys have more. You're just shy of putting it on here. I'll go over the Q&A first, and then we'll ask the questions for those that haven't sent us the questions. So first question is, how common are triple leases? Have those numbers gone up or down in the last 5 years? I'm gonna make Daniel work because he's a commercial broker. He's gonna answer that question.
Oh, you asking me?
I'm asking you, yes.
So triple net leases, how often do they go up and down? Every year, because they reconcile the accounts and they look at the property taxes, the property insurance, and the what we call CAM, common area maintenance, of that property. And as we know in this market, property taxes have gone up, insurance has gone up, maintenance costs has gone up. So pretty more likely has continued to go up every year. If whoever asked that question on the triple net. Sometimes you can negotiate a cap on the operational expenses, but not a cap on the property taxes. Maybe like there's certain expenses on the CAM, they can't go more than 10%. Like your landscape, you can't go like 30% of the following year. So you can negotiate those things. I think, Peggy, you asked me earlier. So certain things can be negotiable. I mean, anything can be negotiable, but common practice, you'll have 10% operation costs cap on that annually. So that's one way to negotiate on behalf of your client. So,
Okay.
go ahead, hope to answer that.
Thank you, Daniel. The next question is, how many acres to be agricultural? So if you look at my slides earlier, it's between 5 and 200 acres are considered agricultural. Now, every cities have their own requirements. So if you have a client that's looking for land that is doing the agricultural, make sure contact the city and so they can provide you any additional requirements. Also, if your clients are doing the agricultural, then after the closing, they need to file what is called the ag exemption. Okay, that's for the taxes. Yes. Next question. What is the typical time frame and enter into feasibility time frame on contracts? So this will be depends on the types of the property. Okay, I've seen the shortest is probably 30 days because again it's commercial, so you need more time to do your due diligence. Land 90 days, 120 days because you have to contact the city. You got to make sure, especially if you have to rezone the land. And then make sure that certain types of commercial properties that you can build on that lot. This is what I mentioned earlier, that when you represent the clients in land, if you don't provide all the accurate information, they could come back and sue you, right? So like there's this piece of land in Seagoville, I've talked to the city and they say they're open for anything except industrial. So no auto shop, body shop, no truck stop, no warehouse, right? But if you have a client looking for a warehouse and you say, okay, this piece of land is great, sign a contract, go to closing, and later on can't build a warehouse. Okay, so that's what happened. So I would say about 30 days. Again, it depends. If we just did a closing and they only have 2 weeks of due diligence on an 8-unit apartments because the sellers already provide all the financial documents during the LOI before the contract submitted. So everything went very smooth. It was 15 days and then 45 days closing. Okay. Next question is, title policy will be amended. If the neighbor is not complaining, can the homeowner still claim from the title company to get the fence boundary issue fixed? Yes. Okay. If you realize that it's not correct or whatsoever, You don't have to wait for the neighbor to complain or just tell them, hey, why don't you complain so I can file the claim? I'm just kidding. But yes, you can file the claim because that's the purpose of the title policy. Oh, see, now I got more questions. Let's see here. What's the benefit of breaking down title policy into business and real property? Okay, so again, title policy only on real property, not on the business. Okay, now the thing is, if you're representing the buyers, the benefit of not breaking it down so that they can have a higher insurable amount when it comes to claims. Okay, let's see here. If estoppel certificates don't get signed and the deal doesn't close, who is in default? Does the buyer get their earnest money back? So again, it depends on the number of days in that section, right? It would say if you put in 15 days before the closing, right, then the seller needs to make sure they provide that to you and the buyer during that time frame. Every time, everything is time sensitive. Does the buyer get the earnest money back? Again, everything is during the feasibility period or due diligence inspection. Bless you. So anything that is, objecting or not accepting by the buyers, you can always terminate the contract during the feasibility period and get the earnest money back. Do keep in mind, the new law came out. We are not responsible for, so basically before you can just send us a termination of contract during the option period, and then we can just release the earnest money, right? Now the law changes, track change also. So we cannot release the earnest money unless we have the release of earnest money form signed by all parties, including you. So we don't care if it's during the option or after or whatsoever. Because keep in mind, again, title companies are what? Third party. Third uninterested party. We're not going to be police or a judge to tell who's right, who's wrong, who's in default, right? So all we do is hold the money and then release it when everyone agrees. And of course, if one party doesn't agree, then you need to practice the demand section of the contract. Demand section? Okay. Want me to tell you more about it? Demand section? Okay. The demand section on the contract, I believe, is section 21 or 22 of the residential contracts, and I forgot what section on the contract, commercial. But basically that if both parties do not agree on who's going to get the earnest money, right, you practice the demand section, which is you send an email or a written letter to a title company requesting that you want to demand the earnest money. And then the clock starts 15 days later. If the responding party does not respond, we release it to the demanding party. If that the other party responds, then of course, you guys have to fight back and forth. If you don't like it, take it to court. Okay. Sometimes we can only hold it for so long. Otherwise, we have to send it to Austin. And then you can work with them instead. Okay. Next questions. Okay. Why is the commission spelled out twice on the contract? For example, on page 15, seems redundant. That's a good question, but I don't know the answer because I did not prepare the contract. But I think what happened was...
Do we have any attorneys here?
Any real estate attorneys can help answer that question? Remember, I never graduated from college, so I don't know this. Any attorneys here that knows why it was twice on the contract? But I think what happened was, based on my experience, so it depends on the listing rep, listing agreements that the listing agent has with the seller, right? It could say that, well, I'm paying you this much total, and then you decided how much you're going to pay the other agent, okay? So based on what I understand is somewhat kind of tax purposes or whatsoever, but then sometimes they put 3% here plus an additional, like a bonus, So it could say that, okay, for example, I'm the seller and I tell Mr. Randy, I'm paying you 6% for the total commission, 3% to you, and then 3% to Alex, right? So that's my agreement between you and I. You put my property on the market for so long, you couldn't sell it, right? So then you can say, well, Alex, if you bring me a buyer, I will also give you another $10,000. So that's when on the first page, you put 3 and 3, right? And then the page 14 or 15, you're going to put an additional $10,000, $15,000 to Alex because that's coming from your portion of commission, right? I'm guessing. I'm just kidding. But yes, that's the thing. Because, or, you know, sometimes you could be the wholesaler too, right? You could be also the wholesaler. You're getting paid more. But again, whatever you agree with the seller is on the agreement. And then it's just because you want to make sure the deal close, right? So you're just paying the bonus. Just like sometimes the builder will give you 3% plus an additional 5,000 bonus during certain months, right? So most of you here have been working with a builder a lot? A lot? Good. Do you know some of the tricks
No, not yet.
on how to get paid more when it's not pandemic? Okay. Okay. So the trick is when you come in, when you have a potential buyer and you comes in at the end of the month, you get additional benefits. The end of the quarter, you get more benefits. The end of the year, you get a bunch more bonuses. Because why? When builders come in, they have a time frame because remember, when they get the land loan, it's interest only. So let's say I'm planning to build 50 homes within 2 years, right? I gotta make sure I finish this 50 homes in 2 years and move to another subdivision. The longer it takes for me to finish out my inventory, the more interest I'm paying. And also for tax purposes too. So at the end of the year, they want to make sure everything is out. Just split with me. No, just kidding. Okay, let's see if any other questions. Good trick, right? Let's see here. What is the normal commercial building commission? Could be whatever. Daniel, what's your thoughts? I've seen 1%, 2%, 3% sometimes. For a piece of land for $1 million, the seller is paying the agent $150,000. It doesn't matter. So usually when you work with a seller, you can ask them, what is the net amount that you want to bring back? And then it's like, okay, well, you want $1 million. If I can sell for 1.5, your commission is 500. There's no limits. The sky's the limit.
As long as there's disclosed, right? Everyone understands. The main thing is understanding what you're trying to do for your client, right? Because you have a fiduciary duty. But sometimes the client doesn't want to sign an exclusive, but you're able to find a buyer and put the deal together, right? So there's different ways to do off-market deals. But when they go back to the question, like if you're doing leasing, if you're doing a retail, like a lease property for a restaurant, it can range from 4 to 4.5% on the tenant rep side. Right, listing can be around 6%, and you got to split it out to your tenant rep broker that's representing the tenant. So it also varies. I had one agent yesterday doing a 5-year lease term on a restaurant, and the landlord's agent as well, and says, I'm going to give you 2%, and I said no, and she came to me like, I don't know what to do. So I got on the phone with her. I was like, hey, our services is 4%. We represent the tenant. You don't have to sign a lease, and we'll walk away, you know. And the tenant will, because the tenant's not going to pay me the extra 2%. However, you know, by arguing, and you know, there's different types of people out there. So just to let you know, commercial is kind of Wild West. It's not like it's on the MLS. So yes, everything is negotiable. So from 4, he came back at 2.5, went to 3, and then came back at 3.5, and we just settled, because at the same time we have to honor our client, right? Because they want that location, but at the same time is landlords need to understand, like, hey, there's splits to our brokers, and you know, when she said, hey, I got to pay a 50% split to my broker or my team, and then you know, just have to word it differently, because when they think it's like, well, if they think you're a residential agent, a lot of these owners will do that. I mean, that's very typical. Even brokers will do that to residential agents. I've been at fault 20 years ago when I first started in the commercial and did that to you guys. So, so I understand. But at the same time, is you know, negotiable, and then make sure you know what you're worth and know what the market is. And when you're arguing, not arguing to just argue, but just like, hey, you know, I'm bringing this client. I vetted them. They have a business plan. They're opening multiple locations. Yes, they're not a national. You know, he goes, it's not a Starbucks. You know, I said, well, I understand it's not a Starbucks. Starbucks won't go here. So it's been on. You know, so things like that. Just have to negotiate your fees all the time.
All negotiable.
Yeah.
Any other questions that's not on here? Yes.
So, on the commercial, if you have a business going with the building, can you put that on the contract also?
Yes.
You can?
Yes. So keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, if the contract is breaking down to business and real property, we only insure the real property value. Okay, so let's say for $5 million and the business is $4 million and the property is $1 million, then we only insure $1 million on the property.
So there's actually a portion of that contract that actually.
So when you go to commercial contracts, typically they don't actually use that TAR contract. Most commercial contracts are attorney drafted, what we call PSA, a purchase sales agreement contract. Sometimes there's two contracts, one for the business, one for the sales. Sometimes they lump it all together depending who's drafting the contract. So yes.
If it's lumped together, then we'll insure the whole amount. But if it's separated, it could be a disclosure or it could be two separate contracts. Yes.
Now, you also said you do owner financing. You have an attorney that does seller financing.
Yes. So our attorney from the title side will also draft up the note, the deed of trust for the owner's financing, along with the amortization schedule as well. Yes.
First, I want to say thank you for having this BootCamp this session today. I've been in residential real estate for 16 years in Texas, and this is my first time embarking upon commercial. So thank you so much for that. But I have a question for the project management people.
All right, we give them a mic.
But it's just very basic. If I have an idea and I come into a commercial property and a building and I need some help with a conceptual design, do you help out with that as well?
We would love to go out there and look at it with you and talk about concepts and stuff. We're not going to draw anything up on a piece of paper or anything like that. That's more of an architect that would do something like that.
So once I get it up and running and going, and then that's when I could come to you.
We love to get involved as fast as we can, because when that architect's drawing that thing up, if he had us involved, we would probably say, avoid this, watch for that. This market doesn't like, or this particular city doesn't allow that kind of stone, and you don't even start thinking that way, or you have to put this kind of roof on it, or the sign that you're saying won't go. We can help them give you a rendering that makes a whole lot more sense. And we'd love to do that.
Even before I meet with. Okay.
That wouldn't be anything that would cost anybody any money, you know, it would just be us talking to somebody. But, so we do that we might do that once or twice. We ain't gonna do that 50 times.
Right,
So,
right,
I mean,
absolutely.
so it just depends. You
Well,
know.
I will say sadly, a lot of owners, thank you, Steve. A lot of owners, because of their level of sophistication with taking on a project, may not have that expertise, right, that knowledge. And so oftentimes we've been brought in the middle when a lot of things have already happened where they've lost money, and we come in and help fix the situation. So the earlier, the better. And as we mentioned, like Steve said, we're happy to be a resource.
Awesome. Now, how can I learn more? Because like I said, this is my first time, now I'm very new, but I'm intrigued. This is the way.
Yeah, so we're actually, Cindy's doing monthly events. You can scan that for the other events that we're doing next month. We're combining, so in the past, I've done like tours on properties versus just doing a workshop. And, you know, Cindy and I were talking, and she goes, hey, why don't we just cut the time down? Let's just do it one day, do a 1 hour training here, and then actually go to the property. And that was the aha. I was like, oh, that saves just so much more time. And then, you know, of course, it's going to be limited, I think 40 people.
40 only.
Because of going to the properties and things like that.
Yeah, otherwise we have to rent like a party bus, you know, so
And
we don't
I
want
think we're
that.
charging $30 to cover our.
Yeah.
I've done that.
The Eventbrite is $30 per the workshop, because that will cover like the site tours and the foods and all that. But yes, we're gonna meet here 10 a.m. at every workshop once every month, starting next month. And then we start here. We discuss about all the information from different aspects, different professional fields like title company, real estate brokers, the management company, the lender, everything that you need to know about that one specific type of commercial property. And then we're gonna have a quick lunch here, and then we're gonna take everyone on a site tour. So the next one is, if you can please scan this one, is March 21st, Land Development and Construction Workshop. This is gonna be a little longer versus the others because again, land is what? Like a blank canvas. So there's a lot of information to disclose. And like Brett would share, from the land loan to construction loan to the permanent loan, and how your clients can even break it down, oh my gosh, I hate that word. Get things break down into multiple phases, right? So you can leverage the smaller cash amount that your investors has, which we have done in the past.
All right,
Other
we have
questions?
More questions. I like this app because it's kind of cool. Who has the duty to find out the restrictions on a leased property? Who finds out if there's a restriction on the use? City at the property, agent or tenant. So I know your client wants us to do everything, right? Because they think we just that's our job.
Concierge.
Our job is actually finding the location, negotiating the contracts. If they're attorney drafted, the attorneys handle that. Of course, you have to have some knowledge. But looking at all the restrictions, if you're going to go to the city and say, hey, you can do this, and what happens, they sign that lease and it doesn't happen, who's it fall back onto? So you got to be careful when you're doing these concierge services to your client. Make sure that you're welcome to go together so they hear the same thing. You just have to really be careful when you're going to the city if it's able to zone. I've been told from one person at the city it's allowed. When it gets into the process, something happened, right? So perfect example, we were doing a ground lease on a Popeyes, and it's been 2 years dealing with the city, and the tenant, the ground lease tenant of ours, spent at least $200,000 in just getting all this stuff for the city. They said we need a traffic light and all that, and we're still fighting. At the end of the day, they dropped it. They lost their deposit. They extended the contract, so they lost the deposit there, plus the amounts of money they spent the 2 years. And for us as a landlord, like, it'll probably go through. It just takes time. Problem is election year. A lot of different, like, the neighborhood doesn't want that. Guess what? There's a lot of politics to be in play, or people change roles, and there's just a lot of things. So just be careful. So whoever asked that question, really your client needs to do it, whether with their construction, with their engineers.
And then another thing that business, they prepare the contract, they prepare the closing statement, they take the deposit, they disperse. Basically, they do everything pretty much similar to what the title company does, except there's no roof on. Okay, so if you need any of those contacts and resources, I would love to provide those to you.